What's up guys, and Fun here. Now, I probably can't deny that there are a lot of gym teams that definitely need work. Like, I'm sure a lot of you agree that there are at least one or two gym teams that you believe could have used some work when they first came out. So, I'm going to be rearranging all of the gym leaders' teams. So let's pretend that this video is if we could hack into every single copy of every single Pokemon game. Then I could rearrange the teams that best fit the gym leaders, or if they have a type that don't correspond to their specific type. For example, Canis's Medicham. But there are some rules I'm laying down. I have to use Pokemon that can only be found in their specific game. So, for example, if I was going over the Kanto gym leaders, I can only use Pokemon that can be found in the regional Pokedex. However, if we have something like Platinum or Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, where if we have like more Pokemon added to it, I can switch around as I please. However, I will not use the DLC in Sword and Shield because I kind of feel like it's a bit unfair because they can't really go there. So, when I talk about Sword and Shield, I'm sticking to the main Sword and Shield Pokemon. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below if you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it, which team was the best, which team was the worst, if you have your own thoughts on what Pokemon would better suit the gym leaders, and if you have any video suggestions for the future, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. So without further ado, let's get into the video! Alright, first off, we actually have got the Kanto leaders. And there's only one gym leader that I'm actually going to keep the same. That being the first gym leader, Brock. Now, I honestly don't see anything wrong with this team. Geodude and Onix, at their level, are a very respectable team for the first gym. But I personally don't see anything wrong with it. Great options. I can't really add anything, because let's say if I added Kabuto or Omanyte, they're more water Pokemon than they are rock types. So I'm throwing them aside. And if I use Aerodactyl, that would be far too powerful for a first gym leader. So I'm keeping it as it is. Plus, a first gym leader, I believe, should have at least two Pokemon. Like, here's how I see it. The first two gym leaders should have two Pokemon. Gyms 3 through 6 should have 3, and the final 2 should have 4 Pokemon. But that's enough for that. Let's get into the second gym leader, Misty. And I've got to say, we're making some drastic changes with her. I don't really know what to say. Like, in the OGs, as well as Fire Red and Leaf Green, she uses Staryu and Starmie, which I believe is a little bit lazy, because there are so many other great water types that we could use. Plus in the anime, she had a Goldeen. So she could have at least had something other than just Staryu and Starmie, you know? But here's where I'm going to change things around. I'm going to be bringing over the Psyduck she used in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. That was a great decision on the Let's Go Creative part. But I'm also going to get rid of Starmie for another great Pokemon. This is a little bit too powerful for a second gym, but I personally think it's a better fit. That being Gyarados. I'm well aware it's a tiny bit overkill, but at the same time, she's at the level where Magikarp could evolve into Gyarados. Plus, it'll be level 21. So, like, Gyarados is not going to be that strong. Like, in the OG games, it would probably only have, like, stuff like Bubble Beam or maybe Water Gun. And in Fire Red and Leaf Green, it would have something like Water Pulse and Bite. So, I don't see anything wrong with her using a Gyarados. I honestly don't. Plus, she had one in the anime. And oh boy, it was by far her strongest Pokemon ever. So, I see nothing wrong with giving her Gyarados. But, time to move on to the third gym leader, Surge. It's also kind of lazy for them to give him Voltorb, then go straight into Pikachu and Raichu, and then in Pokemon Yellow, they decided to just give him Raichu. So, personally, I would actually make sure that he would get a better variety of Electric-type Pokemon. First off, we're going to be giving him Magnemite, because quite frankly, I just can't think of Lieutenant Surge without a Magnemite. Next is his Raichu, no longer the ace. It is pretty strong, but I personally want to give him another ace, because this Pokemon I believe is a much better fit. Because Raichu is kind of cutesy and derpy, but Lieutenant Surge is in the army. He was in the war. We need to give him a Pokemon that best suits his badassness and mental toughness. That's why I'm going to be giving him an Electabuzz, because it looks very powerful and very badass. Plus, he uses an Electivire in the rematch in Heart Gold Soul Silver, so I don't see anything wrong with giving him Electabuzz. The next gym leader is Erica, and normally she runs Victory Bell, Tangela, and Vileplume, but in the Pokemon Yellow version, she has a Weepin' Bell and a Gloom. I personally am going to be keeping the Victory Bell and the Tangela the same. So Vileplume's the ace and Victory Bell is just there. But I'm going to get rid of Tangela and throw in Ivysaur. I personally think that Tangela, bit of a waste if I'm honest. I feel like Ivysaur would be a much better fit. It's stronger, and I definitely love it when gym leaders or important characters, or even people you find on routes, use starter Pokemon. I love that. So that's why I'm going to be giving her Ivysaur. Next up, we have Koga, who always uses 4 Pokemon. Like I said, I prefer it when, up until this point, they use 3 Pokemon rather than 4. But I decided to break this habit and just give him 4 Pokemon. Like, he uses 4 Pokemon normally, so I'll just give him 4 Pokemon. But his 4 Pokemon varies a lot depending on what game you play. Like in the OG games, he uses a bunch of evolution repeats, and in Yellow, he only uses 3 Venonat and a Venomoth, which I find kind of lazy. So that's why I'm going to be giving him Weezing, Venomoth, Golbat, and as his ace, Muck. I feel like this team could actually stand a really good chance. Plus, let's be honest, it would actually give the player a bit more of a challenge. Like, Golbat makes sense because in the later games his ace is Crobat. But for this, I decided to make his ace Muck, because Muck has a higher base stat total than the other Pokemon that we've just discussed. Next up is Sabrina. And I don't really know if this is actually correct because I didn't actually double check it. But the only Pokemon that is staying on her team from the original team is Alakazam as her ace. Everything else is getting scrapped, because we need to give Psychic types a real power boost. In Pokemon Yellow, she literally only uses the Abracadabra and Alakazam line. Like, lazy game creators! Lazy! I can't remember what she uses in the OGs, but I know she runs a Mr. Mime and Alakazam and a Venomoth and something else I cannot remember. It might be Kadabra, I cannot remember. But for my team, I'm making Alakazam the ace, as I said, but I'm also throwing in Starmie and Exeggutor, because they are both very powerful Psychic-type Pokemon, and their dual types can definitely give them a lot of coverage. And as her final honor Pokemon, I'm going to give her a Hypno, because we need a very powerful Psychic-type team. And the only other Pokemon that I can really think of that can really bring Psychic types to their full power is Hypno. Next up is Blaine, where he uses Growlithe, Ponyta, Rapidash, and Arcanine in the OG games, and in Yellow he had a Ninetales plus Rapidash Arcanine. His team kind of tosses and turns around a lot. Plus, in Gold Silver, as well as Heart Gold and Soul Silver, his ace was Rapidash, where it used to be Arcanine. I can't see him without Arcanine, so Arcanine is going to be his ace. but we are going to be keeping Rapidash. As for the other two Pokemon, I'm throwing in a Magmar, because he has a Magmar in the anime, which was his ace, and it was really, really strong, so I'm keeping a Magmar in. And as his final Pokemon, I'm actually going to give him a new one, that being Charizard. In the card game, he does have a Charizard, but we've never seen him used one before as far as I know. So I feel like this would be a great time to see what he can do with a Charizard. Plus, like I said, I love it when gym leaders, Elite Four, or any important people, or even anyone really, who isn't our rival, who uses starter Pokemon. And the last gym leader we're going to be talking about for the Kanto region is Giovanni. Now, in his team, he has a Rhyhorn and a Rhydon, plus Dugtrio and the two Nidos. I'm just going to make a very minor change. Just get rid of the Rhyhorn because we don't really need it. We've got Rhydon. And then replace it with Marowak. Because Marowak is, well, it's a very powerful ground type. Plus, makes more sense than Sandslash, Onix, and Golem. He may have had a Golem in the anime, but Golem is more like Brock's Pokemon if I'm honest. Plus, a lot of Team Rocket grunts did use Cubone. So I feel like it makes sense for him to have a Marowak. Alright, next up we'll be going over through Johto. Now, it kind of annoyed me that a lot of the Johto gym leaders don't have an ace that is from their home region. That's why I'm going to be redoing it. So that way, well, they have a Johto Pokemon as their ace. You know, kind of makes sense. Faulkner's original team is Pidgey and Pidgeotto. Lazy. Absolutely lazy. So, we're going to be keeping the Pidgey, but replacing Pidgeotto with Noctowl. I'm well aware that Noctowl is extremely strong compared to other ace first-time gym leaders, but to be honest, it makes more sense than giving him something like Murkrow. Like, Murkrow is just too easy to beat. So that's why I feel like Noctowl is a better choice. Plus, we can always make it under-leveled, like they did with Pidgeotto. So that way it's a little bit more easy to beat. But, yeah, I feel like this is a great fit. Next up, we have Bugsy. I'm actually going to be evolving both of his Cocoon Pokemon. So that means he's going to be running a Butterfree and a Beedrill. But, I'm also going to be evolving his Scyther into Sizzle as his ace. I am well aware that Sizzle is only weak to fire types due to the fact that he's a bug and a steel type. But at the same time, it makes more sense, to me at least. Because he has a Sizzle in the Heart Gold Soul Silver rematch team, as well as the Black and White 2 Pokemon World Tournament. So, I just feel like it makes more sense. Because having Scyther as your ace when you're a Johto gym leader, nah. You could argue that we could give him a Heracross, but I personally don't want to give him Heracross. As for Whitney's team, I've decided to keep her team the same. Because, quite frankly, there's not a lot I can really do. The most I can do is probably give her an Eevee, and I personally don't really want to. Like, both Clefairy and Miltank are just too famous on her team, so I just feel like keeping it the same is just right. So, next up we're going to be going over Morty. Morty, I didn't make too many drastic changes. Like, it does annoy me that he does have the whole Ghastly line and does Haunter twice. So, I guess the best I can do is replace one of his Haunters with Mischievous. So, that way he does have a little bit of diversity. Plus, Mischievous has a higher base stat total than Haunter, so guess that means it might be a little bit stronger? I don't know. But, at least he has a Johto Pokemon. Next up, we have Chuck. Now, this is where I'm going to be throwing his team around a little bit, because at this point in the game, he needs 3 Pokemon, not 2. And the fact that he's using Primeape and Poliwrath, which are Pokemon that you can find in Kanto, that's a bit of a disgrace. We are keeping Poliwrath, but we're adding 2 new members to the team. Goodbye, Primate. So, his next Pokemon is actually going to be a Hitmontop. Hitmontop is the brand new fighting type Pokemon. And I don't really want to give him a Tyrogue because Tyrogue's a bit too weak at this point of the game. So, we just decided to give him a Hitmontop. But his ace, I decided to give him Heracross. Because I don't really want to make his ace Hitmontop. Hitmontop is just far, far too weak. Plus, Heracross is extremely strong. So I feel like he could do quite decent with a Heracross. Next up, we have Jasmine. And I have to say, wasn't a fan that she literally had 2 Magnemite and a Steelix. Like, what are you doing? So that's why we're going to be getting rid of one of her Magnemite, but have the Magnemite she does have evolve into Magneton. Because at this point, she really needs a Magneton. Plus, it's at level 30. Level 30 is when it evolves. So, Magneton makes sense. And I'm also going to be keeping Steelix as her ace, but I'm also going to be throwing a Skarmory in the mix. Because, let's be honest, Skarmory makes sense. It's a brand new Steel type. Like, why didn't you use it? Alright, Price is up next. And we're actually going to be keeping 2 members of this team and get rid of the Seal and add 2 more members to the team. So Dugong and Pilotwine are staying as they are. Pilotwine is still the ace of the team. But I'm going to be replacing the Seal with a Lapras. Because in the anime, it has been seen that he does have a Lapras. So we're going to give him Lapras. And we're also going to be throwing in a Sneasel because it makes sense. He's an Ice type. He needs more Johto Ice type Pokemon. So 2 Kanto, 2 Johto. I feel like it's a good balance. And finally we have Claire. And in the OG games, she has 3 Dragonair and a Kingdra. So that's why I'm going to be using the Heart Gold Soul Silver team, where she has Gyarados, 2 Dragonair and a Kingdra. Because I can't really do anything else. Like, honestly, the only thing I could do is probably throw in another Kingdra. And I personally don't think that is the correct thing to do. So, yeah, that's Claire's done. Next up is the Hoenn region, and we're going to be kicking things off with Roxanne. Now, I think we should give her her Emerald team. Like, just makes sense, but I'm going to be swapping one of her Geodude with Laleep. That way it gives her a bit more type coverage. Plus, if you remember in Oras, her gym is based around fossils. So I believe it makes sense. Next up, we have Brawly. And I personally think every single game that he's in, he should use his Emerald team. That being Meditite, Machop, and Makuhita. Next up is Watson. Now this is where things are going to make a big change. Magnemite, Voltorb, and Magneton are lazy. Like, he has a Manectric. Why didn't you use Manectric as your ace from the start in every single game? So, I decided to have him, well, have a massive change in his team. Like, Magneton and Manectric are staying on the team. Manectric's going to be the ace. And as his replacement, I decided to give him Chinchou. Like, I just love the fact that Chinchou has decent coverage. Like, if you go in with a ground type, its water type is going to make you go hasta la vista, baby. And Magneton and Manectric are just classic Watson Pokemon. Next up is Flannery, where I think that her Oras team should be her team in every single game, and those being Slugma, Numel, and Torkoal. Next up we have Norman, which I think his Emerald team should be his everyday team. Next up is Winona, and I'm also going to give her her Emerald team, but swap out her Swablu for a Pelipper. Yo guys, so my dumbass failed to remember that she already has a Pelipper on her team. So I'm going to swap it out for her Swellow, since she doesn't have one, and she used one in the anime. And I feel like Swellow is well associated with Winona. Next we have Tate and Liza, and I think their Emerald team should be their everyday team. It's just perfect. And now we have Wallace in Ruby and Sapphire, and Juan in Emerald. The only problem I have with their team is that they're running a love disc. Take away the love disc from both their teams, and they're good to go. Next up, we have the Sinnoh region. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I like a lot of the Sinnoh Jin teams, so a lot of them are going to be staying the same. Like the first 3 Jin leaders, their teams are staying exactly as they are. Rourke, Gardenia, and Maylene are keeping their Diamond and Pearl teams. Crash Away, we're going to be swapping his team around a little bit because he doesn't really use that many Sinnoh Water-type Pokemon. And I think we should use more Sinnoh Water-type Pokemon since we want to see the power of Sinnoh. And Water types are considered one of the most strongest types. So I think we should swap things around. He's keeping Floatzel as his ace, but I'm going to be replacing Gyarados with Prinplup. I'm going to be replacing Quagsire with Gastrodon. Fantina and Byron's team are staying as they are like they did in Diamond and Pearl. But Candice and Volkner are going to be having their Platinum team, because they use Pokemon that aren't their respected types. Candice has a Medicham, and Volkner uses an Octillery and an Ambipom. So I think giving them their Platinum teams are perfect. And that's the end of Sinnoh. Now we're moving on to the Unova region. By far, my least favourite region. But unfortunately, I am stuck using crappy Unova Pokemon. So, I have to make do with what I can. Chili, Cress, and Silent are going to be keeping their respected monkey. But they're no longer the ace. And all their Lillipups are going straight out the front door. I'm going to be making their ace the starter Pokemon respected to their type. So, one would be getting Tepig, one would be getting Oshawott, and one would be getting Snivy. Like, I just feel like they weren't really showing off their types that well. Because they use a normal type and their respected type. Like, come on guys, really? So I decided to give them the starter that matches their type. So Cherin is up next for Black and White 2. He uses Patrat and Lillipup. I'm going to be keeping the Lillipup, but I'm also going to be replacing his Patrat and make Tranquil the ace of his team. Like, it makes sense, because Cherin does have an Unpheasant. Plus, if Faulkner can have an underleveled mid-evolution bird, Cherin can have one too. Lenora's team I'm actually going to be keeping the same. But as for Roxanne's team, I'm going to be adding a Trubbish, as an homage to the anime. As for Berg's team, I'm going to be getting rid of his Whirlipede, and be adding a Excelgor. Now, I definitely feel like he needs a more powerful bug-type team. Whirlipede is meh. Dwebble, it's okay. Leavanny is pretty good. But in Black and White 2, he uses a Swadloon. So I think a perfect fix to this is to have every single version have Excelgor, Dwebble, and Leavanny. Elisa will be keeping her Black and White 2 team, but I'm going to be swapping out one of the Emolga for Tynamo. Just so, you know, that she doesn't have 2 Emolga. Plus, it's an homage to the anime. So next up we have Clay, and I think his team is fine, so it can stay as it is. Skylar's team will be having the same team as in Black and White, but I'm going to be swapping her Swanna with Braviary. Because, to be honest, Braviary just makes more sense to me. I mean, yes, Swanna's a bit more of a feminine Pokemon, but having a Braviary just makes more sense to me. Plus, we can just make it underleveled. We do underleveled Pokemon that are evolved all the time. Like, it wouldn't hurt. Okay, next up we're going to be going over Bryson, and his team is staying as it is. Because, to be honest, I cannot give him any more Pokemon. The best I can do is give him pre-evolution of a Pokemon he already has, or a repeat. And I don't want to do either of those. So, his team will stay as it is. Next up is Drayden. And I think we should keep his Black and White team, but add an underleveled Zweilous. Because at this point, he really should have 4 Pokemon. And as for Marlon, I say make his Black and White 2 challenge team his regular team. Next up are the Kalos leaders. Now, for this, I have actually gone over these teams before. Like, if you remember a video that I made last year, I made a video fixing the Pokemon teams in X and Y. If you want to go check out that video, I'll leave something in the cards. But I'm going to be going over briefly the teams that I think makes the most sense for this game. So, as a brief introduction, Viola's team will be staying the same, but I'm going to be adding a Beedrill. Because that way, it has a bit more type diversity, she has a third Pokemon, and plus, Beedrill has the potential of Mega Evolving should a remake come out and we include the Beedrillite. Next, we have Grant, and his team's going to be staying the same, but I'm also adding an Aerodactyl to match his fossil-loving team. Karina's up next, and her Machoke and Harlucha are staying on the team, but her new ace is Mega Lucario, because to me, it just makes more sense. Plus, that way, we can do the Mega Lucario battle in the gym battle and not a separate battle. Ramos is up next, and his team's going to be a Victory Bell, which is the evolved form of the Weeping Bell that he had, a Go-Goat, and his ace will be Mega Venusaur. Because I believe at this point, they really should have done Megas. Like, the training wheels should have been off by now. Let's give the gym leaders Megas. Come on, guys. Clement's up next, and I say get him to use Dedenne as an homage to the anime, Heliolisk, and as his ace, Mega Ampharos. Alright, Valerie's up next, and this one's taken the most drastic change. We are going to be adding a Florges, as keeping the Sylveon, and make Marwile the ace and give it a Mega, because Mega Marwile, kind of OP. Olympia's up next, and she's going to be running 4 Pokemon this time, with Malamar, Sigilith, Meowstic, and Mega Alakazam. And finally, Wolfric, which definitely needed the most work when I went through this earlier. So, for Wolfric's team, we're going to be giving him a Mamoswine, a Weavile, his Avalugg, and making his Abomasnow his ace and Mega Evolving it. And finally, we're going to be going over the Galar leaders. I cannot do the Alolan region because we don't have a gym leader. Well, apart from that Dragon user, I guess, who sort of became a gym leader, but that wasn't really a gym. Plus, you know, I can't really do the Kahunas because their Pokemon system is a little bit different. So, I'm just going to be skipping them and go straight to Galar. The only change I'm going to be making for Milo's team is swapping his Gossifleur with an Applin. And yes, it's a Dragon types, and Dragon types, we don't really want to use this early, but it's weak to a lot of common types. You'll be fine. Nessa's team, I'm going to be swapping her Goldeen with Chinchou, because her thing is really cute water-type Pokemon, and I think Chinchou is a lot cuter than Goldeen. As for Carbu, I'm swapping his Ninetales with a Raboot, because I believe that his team is more of a badass, powerful-looking Fire-type team, and Ninetales looks a bit feminine, if I'm being honest. Okay, for B team, I'm going to be swapping her team quite a bit. Her new team is Phalanx, Sirfetch'd, Graplox, and her ace is Machamp. I decided to throw in Graplox because she has one in the anime, and it would be at a point where it can evolve into a Graplox. So why not? And I'm going to be throwing in a Phalanx because, well, it's a lot better than Hitmontop. Alistair's new team is going to be the evolved form of the Yamask he had, so I'm going to be evolving it into Runerigus. Next up is Cursula, a Golurk, and his ace, Gengar. Opal's team is staying the same, because, if I'm being honest, couldn't find any good replacements, so I think it's fine as it is. Alright, next up is Gauzy's team, and I'm going to be swapping a couple members of his team because I don't like Stonejoiner, and I don't like Shuckle. Like, at this point of the game, you should be using a bit more of a powerful team. So that's why I'm going to be going with Crustle, Gigalith, Rhydon, and his ace, Colossal. Now, before you tell me in the comments that Gigalith is Raihan's Pokemon, well, the way I did Raihan's team, Gigalith is no longer on his team. So, I'm going to be giving Gauzy Gigalith. So, as for Melanie and Pierce's team, they're staying as they are. I think they're perfect, as they are. So finally, we're going over Reinhardt, who should be a Dragon-type leader, but he isn't. He's a weather leader. You cannot call yourself a Dragon user when half of your team are Dragon types and the other 2 are Mineral types. So that's why I'm no longer making him a weather leader, I'm making him a Dragon leader. Meaning, he's having a full team of Dragon types. So, I'm going to be keeping the Flygon as well as his Duraludon. But I'm going to be throwing in the Goodra that he had when you challenge him in the Pokemon League finals. And I'm going to be adding a brand new Pokemon to his team, Dracovish. And I'm going to make sure that this thing has strong jaw and has vicious red. That way, it'll be sweeping a lot of people very quickly. And there we go, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video as much as I did. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below if you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. Which team was the best? Which was the worst? Let me know your thoughts on what you could do to rearrange the teams. And if you have any video suggestions for the future, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. Did you enjoy the video as much as I did making it? If you did, be sure to give it a massive thumbs up, comment down below, share this video with a friend, and if you're new, subscribe to my channel. It's been Inferno today. Okay, that's all from me, so until the next time, this is Inferno, signing off. Bye!